and I've spent long time trying to be someone I'm not, including in my job. Even today, sometimes I fall into the trap of, feeling like I need to be something other than who I am. But then when I'm myself, everything flows.
What are your top tips for businesses wanting to better respect people's gender identity?
So my top tips in terms of businesses thinking about ways in which they can support people's gender identity is to firstly acknowledge gender diversity. So not just binary genders, men and women, but thinking about the diversity within gender. And with that includes trans, non-binary and gender non-conforming people. And so thinking about ways in which companies can do that would really to take into consideration what the issues could be. Now, a recent survey by Total Jobs in 2021 reported that 40% of transgender people have had to leave their job due to an unwelcoming environment. There's been an increase of 2/3 of trans people that have felt they've had to hide their identity at work. And there's also been 20% of trans people who have experienced fewer microaggressions since working from home. And so that just really reflects that people don't feel comfortable in a work environment to be who they are. They feel that they're encountering indirect forms of discrimination in the workplace. And so in order to facilitate people to be able to feel comfortable, I think my top tips would really be to think about the specific ways in which that company could further education. So, for example, ongoing training or inviting speakers to come in and talk about their experiences. It would be looking at inclusive practices as well. So how to create an environment that's inclusive of different genders, such as gender neutral bathrooms, pronoun visibility as well, but also looking at how they can advocate and perhaps celebrate gender diversity in the workplace, looking at some of the events that we host every year, like Trans Pride, Pride events, but essentially making celebrating in a more visible way would be a way to help employees feel more comfortable, to know that their company supports them.
The workplace can often be fast-paced and competitive. Despite this, how can businesses facilitate vulnerability and authenticity in their employees?
So I live by authenticity and vulnerability, and sometimes that means that I have to accept my own imperfections, and I'm quite aware of my imperfections. In fact, I don't even think of them that way. I almost see them as just who I am as a human being. And so I really love the idea of companies thinking more about how they can move from this idea of just always having to be professional and focusing on efficiency, but actually thinking about how they can support people's mental health and the struggles that we all experience in life. And while I agree that efficiency and professionalism in the workplace is important, studies do show that happiness increases productivity. So creating a culture that encourages courageous conversations and support their employees is integral not only to them as individuals, but to the company as a whole. So with that, I know that vulnerability can feel like a quite scary topic. But I really do see it as a strength, and I see it as helpful in supporting people to help one another as well. I think we connect through vulnerability as well. And so it's not that we need to disregard, professionalism or not bring our personality to work. I think by bringing who we are to the workplace helps us to bring our own individual talents and strengths in what we do. So I believe that true success is found in learning to embrace our authenticity and learn what it means to be our authentic self, learn what makes us unique, but also embracing that in one another. I believe that connection helps us to empower ourselves as well in unapologetically being who we are. And that's another thing that I've learned through my life experience, is how to get to a place where I can be myself and I can be myself professionally. I think that my ability to be able to do that actually helps me in everything that I do. And when I create that kind of personal relationship with someone, we automatically feel more comfortable. And although we're not friends, we can still be friendly. And that already sets the tone of what the relationship is going to be like. If we go in there with this kind of, I guess almost facade, never really truly connecting on a level that's deeper than very surface, I just feel that it does become very transactional. It becomes less about, what we have to offer. And actually, I'm more creative when I'm myself. I'm less creative when I'm trying to be somebody I'm not. And I've spent a long time trying to be someone I'm not, including in my job. Even today, sometimes I fall into the trap of, feeling like I need to be something other than who I am. But then when I'm myself, everything flows. And when I stop thinking, everything flows as well. So it's just, and I believe that, we don't need to, I don't know, there's this kind of archaic idea of discipline. And, I see that with the children that I work with in schools, that teachers feel that they need to enforce discipline as a way to improve young people's productivity. And actually what I've noticed is if you bring people up to your level and show them respect without, shouting at them or, disciplining them, that actually they're far more engaged than, if you kind of talk down to them. And I think it's the same in a work environment. If you respect somebody and make them feel at ease, I think that helps them to be more productive, to feel that they've got something to offer, to feel like they're being respected by the people around them. And so I honestly feel that it's just such an important topic in the workplace specifically. And it's helped me. It's helped me to get to where I am today, despite all of the challenges that I've had to face. And I've got imposter syndrome. I still struggle with that. I'm neurodiverse and ADHD. That gets in the way of what I do sometimes. And then I have this kind of, residue of shame that I still carry from my past experience. But I'm able to manage that, and I'm able to accept the times where I'm not able to manage that as well, because I'm realistic. But always trying to overcome that. But being transparent with people about that is really helpful. It's almost like grassing myself up and saying, I'm really nervous, or this is going on for me. And once I talk about it, it takes the power out of it as well. And it's these kinds of conversations that I feel would be really beneficial in the workplace, in a business, in a company, and just supporting that individual in doing the best they can, and also taking the pressure off as well.
What is the biggest cause of stress in the workplace, and what can businesses do to tackle it?
The biggest causes of stress in my mind is just having too much on our plate. That can be different for different people. It's also about how we manage those tasks as well. But in terms of understanding what the causes are, I think it's really useful to know what stress actually looks like, because it's not just a psychological experience, it's also a physical experience. So when we experience huge amounts of stress, we can go into the fight, flight, or freeze response. And that's actually a primal response, and it comes over us when our brain perceives danger. And so when that happens, we'll begin to feel physical sensations, and that is due to a release of cortisol and adrenaline in the body. And of course, those chemicals are there to be able to help us to get out of danger or have to respond in the moment. And when we experience those physical sensations, we can go into panic. And that can be in extreme cases of stress as well. So we've got all those physical responses, and stress can also cause illness. So medical research shows that 90% of diseases are caused by stress. And so we've got all these issues that can come about because of stress. And I think learning what stress means to us, like when we're stressed, what stress looks like, and how to manage it, I think is really useful. But of course, stress will come from the amount of work we have on, and how important we feel that work is to us. Other things that we have going on in our lives, such as life responsibilities as well, can come into play. And so I really think it's about acknowledging just how stressed we feel as individuals, because some people will feel less stressed than others. So it just depends on how we're managing it. And I think it's the stress management that we need to look at, and how to reduce it. And I'd say that, talking from my own experience, I've had to find a lot of ways to manage those physical responses that I feel, whether that be breath work and meditation, exercise. That's all really helpful, and those are ways that I manage my own stress. But of course, the world we live in is stressful, and that's just the way it is. And so finding those techniques can be really useful.
What do you hope people take away from your public speeches?
So the reason I started to do this work is because I wanted to be the voice that I needed when I was young, and I educate audiences because I was never taught any of the information that I now have, and it's had such a profound effect on my own life. I say that self-education helped me to find myself, and so I feel that education is really powerful, not just in helping people understand themselves, but in understanding one another. And so I hope that audiences feel inspired. I hope that they feel like they've learned something, and they go away with a sense of feeling like they're better able to understand my community as well. But not just that, I also hope that people feel that they can relate to me, because I do talk very honestly and very openly, and I feel that I'm a human like everybody else. And so I hope that people see that and also relate to the human experience, and notice that actually trans people are also humans and like everybody else, and that we're more than just our labels, and we have something to give that extends beyond that experience.